I did this video earlier, but something was wrong with the audio. So I wanted to redo the message and correct the audio problem. And before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Kingdom Creations out of Southfield. Shout out to K-Boss TV in Boston. Shout out to Heavy Hustle Entertainment in Detroit. And the message was important, so I wanted to correct the audio before I actually put it out, for people to see. And the message is going to tie in somewhat to women's abortion rights because the mother had 7 kids in the house and she stabbed at least 3 of them. 2 of them has died. A couple of them jumped out the window. Then she had a 9-month-old baby in the house. And the husband said that she suffered from postpartum depression. You know what I mean? And in the black community, you have so many people already suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome and living like they're in a combat zone that the level of mental health issues in the black community is being totally ignored. I mean, you have a lot of people with these issues, these people who are traumatized, these people who go to work and, he's scared to go to the gas station, the stores, all of that. So I wanna briefly react to what Willie D says out of Houston. And I wanted you to hear him, so I had to redo this video again, so that you can get the audio, so you can hear what the brother is actually saying. And then we're gonna move on to some other topics. So let me set this up right here.
I'm attorney Mark Bernstein. We've had more million-dollar wins than most law firms have had cases.
Mental hospital, and I'm not sure if she was released. I thought at once when I saw her, has been charged with murder.
Let's talk about.
All right, check out what
What's up, family? 3 children have died, and a mother has been charged with murder after a house fire in Paulding County. Deputies said they received a call about a domestic disturbance and a house fire on Woodland Drive around 9:20 p.m. on Friday. They said that a woman was inside the home attempting to stab the kids inside at the time of the call. The home was on fire at the same time. Firefighters and deputies arrived to put the fire out and rescue anyone inside. They said there were 7 kids inside. 2 were found dead, a 3-year-old with multiple stab wounds and a 9-month-old. Deputies said 3 other kids, ages 5, 9, and 11, were taken to the hospital where the 5-year-old died. The 2 other kids, 14 and 16, were not hurt. Neighbors said that some of the kids jumped out of a 2nd-story window to escape. The woman described on the initial call, Darlene Brister, was located on the property and taken into custody. The sheriff's office said that she is in the Paulding County Detention Center and is being charged with 2 counts of malice murder.
Hey, Ms.
She is
Jensen.
being held with no bond, and the sheriff's office said additional charges are likely. Edward Springer, who lives across the street, said the family lived there for years with no problems. He said he would see the kids playing in the front yard. They kept to themselves, but they were very, very good people. He just don't understand what happened. Darlene has been denied bond. Meanwhile, her husband, Ricky, says his wife was struggling with mental illness. That reminds me of another case where a husband said that his wife was struggling with mental illness after she drowned 5 of her own children in a bathtub inside of her house. Andrea Yates. Yeah, Andrea lived in the Houston area, and Andrea who killed 5 of her own children, children who came out of her womb, who she carried. She was given a life sentence. The prosecutors wanted the death penalty for her, but the jury refused to give her the death penalty. So they gave her life. That verdict was appealed, and she was awarded a new trial. The second trial, the second jury found her not guilty under reason of insanity. So she was sent to a mental hospital, and I'm not sure if she was released. I thought at one point I saw where she was actually released from the mental institution. 5 babies, and you get to go home. This woman killed 3. It was reported that she killed 4, but the 4th kid is still in the hospital in critical condition, still alive, barely. Y'all think that Darlene is going to get the same consideration as Andrea got?
I'm gonna stop it on that
I
note.
mean, is this
His last question was, do we think that the sister is going to get the same type of leniency as Andrea Yates, who killed her 5 kids and drowned them? You know what I mean? Because, you know, when white people do something, they often plead insanity, you know, whereas black person, no matter what type of mental issues or mental health issues you have, you're usually going to be found competent to stand trial, and you're going to get the maximum amount of time or punishment that they can issue out. But the main thing that I wanted to say about this was, in Michigan and in Detroit, you had the young lady put her baby, 3 years old, in a deep freezer. Then you had the babysitter in Roseville who beat the toddler to death and killed the toddler last week. Then you had the black man on the west side pull a pistol and try to shoot a man who's holding a 7-month-old baby. I mean, it's like our people have went insane with the things they do. Also, I have reports about the young lady that was killed on a freeway when they said she crossed the median. They said she fell asleep. I have reliable reports from family members and people that know her, and they said that she was being robbed and chased, and that's how she had the accident. So they investigating that, and I don't know what level, you know, the police is with that. But the issue is that the black community is under siege from violence, under siege from economic crisis, under siege from consistent mental health issues. Why their benefits is being cut and all these other different things are happening to us, and nobody's really addressing it. I mean, the leaders, the so-called leaders like T.D. Jakes and I don't know who else is even out there, because there seems to be no voice. There seems to be nobody speaking to these particular issues, because when you look at YouTube and influencers and content creators on here, they so distracted with gender politics, a gender divide. They're so distracted with the salacious gossip and things of that nature that their message is dominating the airwaves, and people are not getting the information and knowledge they need to really know what's going on in our communities across this country. You know, people were so excited to vote in Joe Biden, who has so many times showed his disdain for black people. You know what I mean? By calling us animals, say our communities were zoos, and calling us super predators, and passing crime bills. And Kamala Harris was doing the same types of things in California when black people rushed out to support her, particularly black women. You know, y'all wanted her to be in there and supported her when she didn't even identify as a black woman until she needed your vote. And then the first thing she do when she get in office is tell you that she's not going to do anything Pacific for black people. So he was conned and bamboozled again along gender lines, not based on facts or information or somebody who's really going to give you something for your vote. So we put in two of the most dangerous politicians to black communities and black society in the history of this country since slavery. We put two of the most dangerous, biased, prejudiced people against black people in this country. And we wonder why we see the level of violence, you know what I mean? The level of economic distress that we see as they overturn Roe versus Wade and take abortion rights. This was a woman who suffered from postpartum depression because she had a 9-month-old baby. So she stabbed 4 of her own children in her home in Atlanta, a black woman. These black women have reached a level of their own type of insanity due to oppression and the circumstances that surround the communities they live in, and nobody's addressing it. Black leadership is not addressing it. They're too busy passing the collection plate. They're too busy with those social agendas, and they're too scared to speak out against the government that they claim to oppose. They claim to oppose white supremacy. They claim to oppose these governmental sanctions, but they're quiet and they hide in their mosques and their temples and they pass the collection plate like the pimps that they are in the pulpit while black people suffer. What are we going to do about it when nobody seems to address it? I mean, how much of this can you see? How much can you tolerate? You know, is the community dying from benign neglect as they're being systematically destroyed? And you look at the white feminist women who are really outraged about their abortion rights being taken because the government has stepped in and said we need more white babies. We need more white babies. Whereas in the black community, they're not having reproductive problems. But the women who don't want children, they're going to find a way to get abortions. So you're going to create a whole nother criminal operation, which is illegal abortions. Women going to go back to people's kitchens with coat hangers, scraping fetuses out of their wombs, destroying their bodies, destroying their minds. And at the same time, the women who actually perform these abortions are going to be arrested and criminalized. You know, what does these things mean for a community already under siege with violence? A community already seized with mental health issues. Not only postpartum depression, post-traumatic stress syndrome, schizophrenia, bipolar, you name it. We're being diagnosed with everything, and at the same time, we have epidemics in drug use, Percocets, Molly's, Adderall, all these different things. And where is leadership? You look in Chicago, and that's where Minister Farrakhan lives and the mosque is. It's right in the same neighborhood as O Block in 63rd. You mean to tell me an organization that's been around almost 100 years in the black community has no influence over the youth, is totally disconnected from what's going on in Chicago between the DDs and the BDs. You can live in a neighborhood where 48 people can be shot in a weekend and 4 fatalities and claim to be a leader of black people and to have an organization of men who are incapable of communicating with the youth. Little Dirk got more control over Chicago than the Muslims and the religious leaders in Chicago. Believe that. Little Dirk has more control over Chicago than those so-called leaders. You see that. You see that if you know anything about O Block, you know anything about what's going on the south side of Chicago. So it's like leadership has become impotent. You can't even think about a person like T.D. Jakes. Nobody's going to his church after the last fiasco with Eddie Long. Eddie Long had the biggest church down in the South. All he did is bash gay people because he had self-loathing and he ended up coming out the closet. And his congregation still held on to the fact that this hypocrite was a religious leader. This hypocrite was a religious leader. So at the same time, we suffering from a lack of leadership and a lack of guidance. We're being murdered, robbed, abused, all of this. And there's no answer. I'm gonna show you this other guy. I'm gonna let him talk because he really irks me on a whole level. But he's saying some all right things in this one. But listen to his language. Listen to his communication, how he communicates. I want you to hear how he communicates. This is Umar Johnson. And this is fair use for just for commentary YouTube under fair use guidelines. I do not own this content. Let me put him on for you guys.
Let me say this to all my fellow American Africans doing, what is your congression?
He said American Africans. How can you be American and
He
African?
said
It's American and African. Listen to this double talk. This is double talk.
Warned us. The most.
I want you to hear what he said.
Let me say this to all my fellow American Africans.
American Africans.
The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey warned us. The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey warned us 100 years ago. He said that a people who depends upon another race for their survival sooner or later dies. A people who depends upon another race for their survival sooner or later dies. Mr. Garvey said, no right is safe when it is given to you by another people. No law, no bill, no policy, no right, no privilege is permanent or safe when it was given to you by another people. What am I saying? I'm saying that if they can reverse the abortion law in the face of a very powerful white feminist movement, if they can overturn Roe versus Wade in the face of a very powerful white feminist movement, if they can do this to the feminists, if they can undermine the feminists, most voters are women. Most Americans are women, and yet and still they threw out a federally guaranteed right to abortion because they said according to Justice Clarence Coon Thomas. The framers of the Constitution did not intend for their words to be interpreted as meaning women have a right to terminate unborn life. Unborn human being. Remember, the Supreme Court's job is to interpret constitutional law. If they feel that the law is not protected by the Constitution, they can throw it out. If they can prove that the framers of the Constitution did not intend for their words to be interpreted as meaning women have a right to terminate unborn life, they can overturn it. So if they can do this to the feminists, if they can do this in the face of the powerful white feminist movement, they can revisit civil rights, can revisit voting rights, they can revisit school desegregation, they can revisit whatever is left of affirmative action. I hope American Africans are paying attention. I told you, Negroes, this would happen. This is one of the prophecies of Ifa Tunde. I told you this would happen. They had to. Abortion clinic ain't the issue. It's.
Let me stop him here. I'm tired of his double talk. I'm tired of his double talk. First he says we're American Africans. Then he says, I told you Negroes. What is he? If he's not a Negro, what is he? If he's not a con man, which is back to Africa. He told you about Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was sent out of America for fraud because he was accepting donations to go back to Africa under the same guise as him paying Africanism. But you don't see any African leaders bagging him. So what black people supposed to do? We supposed to invade Africa? You don't see no presidents or prime ministers of Africa helping in the civil rights movement. They never marched with us. No Nigerians and Africans ever marched with us and stood up for our rights over here in this country because they know we're not Africans. Africans participated in the slave trade, just like the Arabs. So he comes to you under the guise of he got some type of foresight or some type of way to get all of us back into Africa or to unite with Pan-Africanism, but you don't see any Africans talking. You don't see any Africans even concerned with the plight of black people in America. See, it's people like him that's the problem with that double talk. Now, he was right about one thing. When they moved on the feminists and they moved on abortion rights, that set the stage to move on Second Amendment rights to bear arms, other rights that you have that the framers of the Constitution so-called gave us. But you got to remember, the people that framed the Constitution and wrote the Constitution owned slaves. They were slave masters. Jefferson and all the rest of them owned black people as property. So we expect people who owned us as property to be the ones who are going to liberate us, while all the time we're being divided amongst foolishness and distractions. Umar is a distraction. If he's Dr. Umar, then I'm Dr. Dre. That's Dr. Umar and I'm Dr. Dre. You understand what I'm saying? And he wants to take you back to Africa, but you don't see any Africans even associating with him. He came to Detroit and talked to two people in the hood. He even was in Highland Park, where I'm from. I know the guys that he was talking to, and it wasn't an African in the bunch. So I don't know what that conversation could have consisted of. You know what I mean? A Pan-African going back to Africa, and ain't no Africans involved. So what are we supposed to do? If we follow his thinking, we're supposed to invade Africa. We're supposed to go over there and fight with Africans for a piece of what they got when we won't fight here for the shit that we built. See, he's a distraction. He's a distraction. And like I say, if he's a Dr. Umar, I'm a Dr. Dre. And then he said he prophesied something. Well, if he could prophesy something, prophesize what the lottery gonna be and let us all get paid. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's why I always say, where is the leadership? You see, he's not speaking to anything that goes on in the black community. He's not speaking to the violence. He's not speaking to the murders of our youth. He's not speaking to anything that directly affects black people. None of them are. None of them are. I need for y'all to like, share, and subscribe my videos, so there could be another narrative other than this con. This is a con. No matter how his guys, and he wants to pander to black women, but he doesn't even do that right because he doesn't even speak to none of their issues. It's just more and more rhetoric while the people suffer and people perish. So I just wanted to critique these two. I like what how Willie D shaped it and says, is that sister going to get the same understanding that the white that killed her 5 kids is going to get? I don't think so. But black people, I want you to critique and criticize and listen to everything that you think. Like and share the video and get it out and think about what I said. Think about the things that they said. Think about your rights. Think about your lives. Because you're in danger right now. What you're going through is genocide. It's genocide. Signing out of Detroit. Peace.